Hey guys, in this video we're going to be talking a little bit about bad habits and what you can do to get rid of these bad habits. And in the section after this, we're going to discuss the best way to get rid of a bad habit. So, what are some bad habits? We all know some people who smoke. Now, smoking is a bad habit because of the effects it has on your health. And even the effects it has on your relationships. You know, when you're around friends, there might be some friends who don't smoke and will be offended if you try to smoke around them. Another bad habit is drinking excessively. Now, in the past video I said drinking, and having a drink now and then is okay, but drinking excessively can lead to more bad health and destroying your relationships, even your financial success, because drinking costs money, so does smoking. These just wipe out the 4 pillars of health, wealth, love, and happiness. It's like a wrecking ball, just boom, 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 boom. Another bad habit is eating out fatty or greasy foods commonly. And when most people think of bad habits, they think about stuff that they do to their body. But there are other bad habits like saying and or even holding a grudge can be a bad habit. Hanging around certain people can be bad habits if it's negative to the rest of your life. And I'm sure you can write down some bad habits in your life. And that's what I want you to do right now. I want you to write down maybe 5 to 10 bad habits that you know that you can identify in your life that you intentionally want to get rid of. And that's important. You have to intentionally, mindfully want to get rid of them. So let's talk a little bit about positive reinforcement. So positive reinforcement goes back hundreds of years. Basically, it's our brain's way of saying, hey, I'm hungry. What can we do to solve this problem? And it sees food, and then you eat food, and you feel good, and you get that dopamine rush. And then what happens is your brain is like, this is awesome, let's do it more often, and it rewards that process. It says, next time we're hungry, how about we eat some food? And it goes on and on and on, and this gets compounded over many years of your life, and eventually a very strong habit is formed. Basically, this positive reinforcement can create a habit. Now, a lot of times, these create bad habits. Like with smoking, someone might start smoking in high school, even middle school and college. And what happens is, they feel bad, they're hanging around their friends, they're pushed into peer pressure, and they start smoking. And it really sucks at first. I mean, if you've ever taken and smoked a cigarette, some people just cough and wheeze, and it's bad for your body. And what happens is, after a while, they start to get a dopamine rush. 1, because there's nicotine in it, and 2, because they're around other of their friends, and their friends are starting to approve of them. And what happens is, this dopamine rush starts to form a positive reinforcement, and it turns into a habit, which is very difficult to quit many years later. It works the same with food. Someone might feel bad, so they see ice cream, they eat ice cream, and the next thing you know, it's a habit. Whenever they're feeling down, they go to ice cream as their vice, or smoking as their vice, and maybe even drinking. You should have paused the video and written down 5 to 10 habits that you want to get rid of. Now what I want you to do is draw a line, a little inch line, and then I want you to come up with triggers. Alright, so you smoke. What causes you to smoke? You eat ice cream. What causes you to eat ice cream? You might smoke because you're stressed. You might smoke just because that's what you do at the time of day. Just because you're with friends. And this is where it gets really important, because it's hard to get rid of a bad habit if you cannot find the trigger. And every habit has a trigger. And the trigger was started back when the positive reinforcement began. Trigger could be that you are hungry. The trigger could be that you hang around a group of friends. The trigger could even be that you get home from work and you see that alcohol sitting in your fridge. And now, when we take positive reinforcement, we can use positive reinforcement to get rid of a bad habit by destroying the trigger. So, if you get rid of that alcohol when you get home, out of your fridge, eventually you will be less likely to drink alcohol. If you get rid of hanging around those friends that you always smoke around, or maybe even at that certain time of day, do something else, go for a walk. And this is one of the secret ways that you can get rid of a habit, and we'll talk about it in the next section. But find those triggers in your life and try to get rid of them. Something else that I found, there was a study, and what they did was there were people who smoked, and they wanted to try to find and analyze what they could do to make them not smoke. So one thing they did is mindfulness. And if you don't know what mindfulness is, it's pretty awesome. There's a ton of YouTube videos on it. It's basically living in the moment, thinking about what you're doing. You know, a lot of people, when they smoke, they're actually mindless. They're not even thinking about smoking. It's just a habit that they do, because habits are when your brain stops spending resources on tasks, so it becomes a lower part of your thought process. Like thinking about turning on your blinker. You don't need to think about it. Your brain just goes, well, I don't need to spend extra sugar calories on this. We'll just put it in the habit process, and then I can just push a button just like a computer, and it'll happen. You don't even think about it. Now, when someone goes to smoke and it is mindless, this is something that you need to think about, and you have to identify the triggers to get rid of that. So, let's say a trigger is going out to lunch with some friends. So that trigger, you know, all of your friends are smoking, and they're eating lunch, and it's midday. You need to find that trigger and just get rid of it. Basically, destroy the rest of the positive reinforcement. It'll just crumble it. Like you see food, you eat food, and then you feel good. Well, what this can do is you're hanging out with friends, you smoke, and then you feel better. If you get rid of the hanging around with friends part, that just completely demolishes the rest of it, the habit, the trigger, the behavior, and the reward. And you can just demolish that, and that's one thing you can do about positive reinforcement to get rid of a habit. Now another thing is, back to that study. They said mindfulness helped a little bit in getting rid of smoking. When people started thinking about what smoking was doing to their body, what helped like almost 3 to 6 times as effective was when they were mindful and curious. When they were curious about what the smoking was doing to the body, when they wanted to know really, like, what is this doing to my lungs? What is this doing to my family? What is this doing to make me a better person? And that's why self-improvement is really important, because you have to have that metacognition to think about how you're thinking and how you can make yourself better if you want to overcome a bad habit. And anyways, there was a higher success of them not smoking in the future if they were mindful about what they were doing, and every breath they took in of the cigarette, they were thinking, this is filling my lungs with all kinds of negative toxins, and I'm literally taking years off my life, statistically. So we got positive reinforcement, we've got mindfulness with curiosity. Those are 2 ways that can help. Another one is negative reinforcement. So negative reinforcement is a lot like positive reinforcement, only instead of a reward, you get a tax, or something that's negative. For example, when you start smoking, light the cigarette, then burn it on your hand, and then continue to smoke. And I can guarantee you, after like 10 or 15 times of doing this, if you do it every time, your brain will start to rewire itself just a little bit, and you'll be like, oh man, I gotta go back outside and burn myself again. Now, I'm not suggesting you to do this all the time. I'm saying to use this as a concept. You need some negative reinforcement, something to go, oh, instead of maybe just going outside and smoking, maybe I'll go outside and smoke with a person who I do not like. And before you even start thinking about smoking, you'll start thinking about, oh man, when lunch comes, I gotta go out and talk to that person. Oh man, they're gonna call me out on something I did wrong. And I've been talking about smoking a lot in this section, and what I want you to do is if it's something other than smoking, if it's drinking excessively, or if it's eating food, or if it's hanging around with people who add no value to your life, or even just something out there that it's a habit that you want to get rid of, something you wrote down on that list, I want you to convert it and reverse engineer it into this smoking example that I've been using. So positive reinforcement, you need to get rid of the triggers. Mindfulness and curiosity, you need to understand what that habit is doing to yourself, your health, your wealth, your love, and your happiness, and those pillars of your life. In the negative reinforcement, you need to think of, what can I do as a negative trigger that whenever I do this, it will prevent me, it will make me think twice about doing it. There's actually something, if you do negative reinforcement long enough, or in the wrong way, it's actually called learned helplessness. And learned helplessness is when someone does something long enough and they say, I've done it, I've tried it for 10 years and I can't stop smoking. That's called learned helplessness. And it's actually a very strong psychological condition in which you feel like whatever you do, nothing's going to happen. And there's a ton of people out there in the world who have this condition. And I call it a condition because it really is a mental condition that really needs to be solved, because stuff you do can change the outcome. Now, there are certain situations where whatever you do, you're not going to have a big impact, but you need to understand there are ways to stop smoking. There are ways to change my habits of drinking every night. There are ways of committing and not eating greasy food for a week. And that's where negative reinforcement comes in. Because if you do it wrong, you'll actually teach yourself that no matter what you do, it's not going to change your situation. And that's not what I want you guys to go down. I want you guys to understand that these 3 methods that I just brought up, the positive reinforcement, understanding positive reinforcement, you can use it to get rid of the trigger. That was the first one. The second one is mindful and curiosity. So you need to understand, what is this? Every day I wake up and I text my girlfriend good morning. What is that good morning doing to our relationship? You have to understand your habits and reverse engineer them and saying, is this profiting me, or is this putting me in the hole in money? Am I losing money? Am I lowering the value of our friendship? Am I losing years of my life? And that's what I want you to do with all of those habits on that list. So that was number 2, mindfulness and curiosity. And then number 3 is negative reinforcement. And negative reinforcement doesn't work that well, but it does work if used correctly. And what you do is you find a way to make your habit less exciting, something that you don't really want to do. And that has to come from within. It's hard to make other people accountable for you. You have to make yourself accountable for yourself. So as a review, negatively reinforce something that you are doing. Some people do this with like rubber bands. Every time they do something, you can train yourself like a Pavlov's dogs. You can pull the rubber band and snap it, and eventually your brain will rewire itself to go, I don't want to do that because I don't want a rubber band snap. Number 2 is to avoid the triggers. Number 3 is to be mindful and curious and basically understanding what the habit is doing to yourself. And number 4, this is the most successful way to get rid of a bad habit. And I'm going to talk about it in the next section. And it is to replace a bad habit with a good habit, or at least something better. I hope you guys enjoy this short little clip, and let's get on to the next one. If you guys enjoyed that video and want to read the book I wrote that it came from, search Amazon for Habit Harvester or click the link in the description. The book is short enough to read in one sitting, but is jam-packed with tons of information, just like you saw in this video. In fact, I've also added a few extra stories and fixed some of the errors found in this video course. There's also plenty of amazing illustrations to aid in the learning process and keep the book fun to read. If you're interested, you can buy the Kindle version for $2.99 or sign up for a month of Kindle Unlimited to get it for free, which is what I personally use, and you get access to millions of other ebooks and thousands of audiobooks included in your Kindle Unlimited membership. When you buy the Kindle version, you don't even need a Kindle to read it. You can download the Kindle app on your smartphone, download the software for PC, or even read it on Amazon.com through their cloud server. If you want to watch the rest of the videos in this series, click this thingy or check the link in the description for a playlist. Thank you guys so much for watching.